Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Animac from Anime Uproar, and welcome to another episode of the One Piece Virgin. This episode is number 28, I think, so we're really pushing through this, and today we're going to be discussing the post-Marineford arc. And joining us, by popular demand, we have a young gentleman known as Totally Not Mark.
Hello, I'm Totally Not Mark. I swear. Don't say that I'm Mark, because I'm not. Totally not. Damn, I messed it already.
No, that intro was fire. You have to use it every single time.
Thanks for having me. Seriously, I got a lot of requests to reach out to you guys, and you hooked up to me on Twitter, and I'm really happy to actually finally have this conversation. Thank you for having me.
Awesome, man. Really glad to have you. A lot of people have recommended. They said that you do amazing analysis. They love your reactions. For those of you that don't know, Mark is also a One Piece virgin, just like myself. He is just caught up to the post-Marineford arc as we are, so it ended up working out really well. So the two of us will be the virgins for today. Nux and Briggs are the hoes, aka
Nux and Briggs!
AKA experts, who are definitely not gonna spoil anything.
No, I'm gonna be.
When Luffy died in the latest chapter, god damn. Okay, fine.
Honestly, when it was just Adamak, I kind of didn't care that much. But now that we have Mark here as well, who like his content is based on being spoiler free.
And I went to such significant lengths just to not get spoiled. Like, I have people looking at my comments. I have like muted Twitter words that numbering like 200 or 300 words.
Yo, yeah. I am going to be so tight-lipped about spoilers this time. I'm going to be like Blackbeard when he lost his tongue.
I really hope that's not true.
I don't believe anything Nux says.
Yeah, that's a fact.
See, what you just said there is so close to reality. It could, like, what you said there actually could be a spoiler.
Maybe it was. Maybe it was a spoiler.
Okay, Nux, maybe it wasn't. I don't know. But if it actually turned out to be a spoiler, I'm actually gonna like at you on Twitter and gonna send like
but
please do,
Mark. Please understand this is Nux Taku, not anyone else. Everyone else here is a good human being.
Right. I don't even make believe.
Nux isn't even human.
Anyway,
some would argue.
Nux, I would sincerely hope that you're not going to actually spoil. Now, let's get into the discussion.
You said that with such conviction, Mac. You love to see it.
Basically, so we start off with after the war. So we had the whole war arc. It was absolutely insane, absolutely mind-boggling. And then we start in the aftermath. And Luffy is basically passed out and fighting for his life. Trafalgar saved him on his submarine. We saw that. And then they are taken to the Amazon Lily, the Kingdom of the Women, by Boa, who is still a huge Luffy simp.
And we love her for it.
Stan.
And a big theme in this post-Marineford arc is the beginning of the New Age. The supernovas, they all saw what happened in Marineford, and now as they enter the New World, they're setting the stage for a new age of piracy. The age of Whitebeard is gone, and who is going to take the mantle of the New Age? That is the big question. But we have a lot of stuff going on. The government is clearly dealing with a lot of issues because a power vacuum was created by Whitebeard's death. A bunch of people are now competing for that territory, including Blackbeard, the crazy villain himself. So the government has a lot of things to worry about. The pirates are all over the place, and big changes are happening in this world, as we're going to see as we go on with the discussion.
By the way, quick spoilers for next week. We will be doing chapters 598 through 626. That's going to be next week's.
Oh, no. So actually, for next week, we're going to do a recap and sort of best moments stuff.
Then never mind.
I say we either do a tier list or a ranking of sorts of all the previous arcs that we've done so far on the One Piece Virgin podcast.
Can we like do like I really want to do like I want to rank my straw hats or something at some point. That like I feel like that's something that I should.
Hell yes.
I feel like that's something that I should do at this point in the story.
Bro, but you should do it after Blackbeard becomes a straw hat also, so that you can really get all of it.
Okay, that was good.
The thing is, if this joke continues, I know he's going to be a dick and sprinkle a real spoiler in there.
Yeah.
But imagine that. That would be the craziest twist.
Oh yeah,
you see, Blackbeard had a fake beard all along.
Anyways, so talking about the whole next week thing, I think we should do like a recap of the best moments, stuff like that, because yeah, we need, I think, a break and a sort of how you call it, reflection. We need some reflection of the series so far. But then if you guys want to do extra stuff like tier list, things like that, we can always, hook that up later on. I personally don't want to rank the Straw Hats or tier list them just because I love them all.
Yo, Animax, he kind of hates ranking.
That's a cop-out. You have to have a favorite. You surely have to have a favorite.
I agree.
I love this guy.
Kind of sucks at this kind of thing.
No one's going to say that Zoro and Luffy are the same tier as Chopper. No one's going to say that.
Yeah,
Okay,
Chopper.
Are you making fun of my boy Chopper?
Chopper is the least interesting. He is.
How could you say that, dude?
Okay, actually,
to be fair, it is fair. But after Chopper single-handedly beats Shanks, I was flipping out.
Fuck. Okay, Nux, please, man.
Let's not have an entire episode of this.
Like, yeah, like we're trying to have an actual episode. No, like personally, I love Nami. A lot of people say that they don't like her that much, but I love her.
Oh,
as
Nami's
a
like,
Straw Hat.
I think,
so, yeah, I don't want to do the rankings of characters, but I would do like
Weak. Weak.
Anyway,
I would rather do arcs as well.
One thing that I found interesting, as this arc is unfolding, is the world government is claiming victory after Marineford, but it's clear that in reality things are much more complicated. And Whitebeard's whole statement about the One Piece really reignited the desire of the people to find it again. So, reigniting the Age of Pirates. And one thing that made me think about this whole Whitebeard statement about the One Piece, it's almost as if, even though there's a lot of bad pirates out there and a lot of crime and bad things happen as a result of piracy, this idea of the One Piece is really symbolic of the idea of freedom itself. So it's almost like Whitebeard wants to destroy the world government by getting people to think about this concept of the One Piece and freedom and getting them to act in ways that will eventually bring about the downfall of the world government.
Hell yeah!
Instead of the friends you met along the way, the One Piece could in fact be the concept of freedom. Now that is the most American thing I've ever heard in my entire life.
I mean, it's a possibility.
One Piece is in fact a Wapamaca meal burger.
Yeah, I don't think it will be just that symbolic thing, although I definitely could see that, but you never know.
The thing
Mark,
is, though,
I'm assuming you don't read any of the SBSs then.
I don't know what that is.
The question corners?
Like Oda does the question corners and answers questions after every chapter.
Oh no, I do. I read I think probably about 75% of them, but when you get into a rut and Ace dies, I'm like, okay, I guess I'm turning to the next chapter immediately. It's just one of those things where I'll see some of them, I won't see others. I know for a fact that Oda said that it's like an actual treasure and not the friends you made along the way.
I don't think he ever said it's an actual.
I'm just being extra careful because you did say it was tangible, and I was gonna bring that up, but then I was too scared. I'm like, do you think that's a spoiler? I don't know.
Oh well, thing is I would have assumed, given the way that he said it, I left it all in one piece kind of thing. I'm like, okay, well, it means. Yes.
My personal guess is that it's either a weapon or information or something that can lead to destroying the world government.
I mean, to be honest, from where I am in the story, I don't it's kind of like a weird kind of thing, because what I actually like about the story is that in the Navy there are good and bad people. In the pirates there are good and bad people. There's a sort of moral gray area that everyone seems to be operating under, and Luffy just seems to be doing his own thing, which is what makes him a force of good. He just wants to make friends with everybody. That's his idea of what a pirate is, that and freedom. So the only bad guys in the entire thing that I've seen as just all out and out bad guys are the world government, because they seem to be just these really old guys that are just really
I don't know why you view them. Wait, hold on. Why do you view them as out and out bad guys? At the end of the day, they're trying to keep order from these crazy anarchists trying to throw everything into chaos like Blackbeard. They're two extremes. And both have issues.
Who that's true. But who were the people that I might be confused actually. So who were the people that wanted to get the Plutons so that they could try to kill people? That was
the world government. Yeah, the world government wanted it so that no one else.
That's not a good thing. That's a bad thing.
Is it though? At the end of the day, if they rule through fear, then there won't be these crazy psycho pirates going out, murdering people and raping women and stuff.
The thing is, I shouldn't have said out and out bad guys. Probably a better word to use would have been they've probably been the most morally morally they could be seen as the most skewed towards one direction than the other. So like,
but again, I don't necessarily agree with that. I think one of the things that I like most about the Marineford War is it finally painted a picture as far as good and bad or black and white. Like, for example, you had Akainu, authoritarianism incarnate. He wants to rule with an iron fist. Anything that doesn't fall in his line of justice should be eviscerated.
Yeah.
And then you have the absolute opposite. You have Blackbeard, who's the absolute anarchist. And he's someone who wants to throw the world into chaos for the sake of freedom. He wants freedom. And in his world of freedom, the strong will survive. Because if everyone can do whatever they want.
Then as well, you got people like Doflamingo then who are like completely nihilistic and just say like, whoever wins, that's justice.
His speech was great, but you don't know anything about Doflamingo.
I was going to say most people butcher Doflamingo's last name, not his first name.
I don't really know anything about Doflamingo really, other than what's happened in
Marineford.
Jaya. Jaya and Marineford. Like not Jaya. He was in Jaya though. He was at Jaya. He
met up with Bellamy, one of the greatest characters in all of One Piece.
And he made him he can like control people's bodies or something. I don't know. That's what I think is happening.
Can I just say, Mark? I feel like every country, even in our world, like every government, always wants powerful weapons for control, for protection.
Oh no, absolutely.
Right?
I mean, fear is a big thing.
So it's like it would make sense for the world government to want the Pluton. That way, they could have more power than the people opposing them. And also, it's like Frankie even says at one point that like his master built it or like made the blueprints or whatever, or passed down the blueprints. That way, if it ever came to be, they had something to battle it. So it's kind of like they're gonna make the Pluton to like fight against the Pluton, and then they want the Pluton so they could fight against the Pluton potentially, right?
And
I think whoever built it first.
That's definitely true, and I totally agree. And like while you were saying that as well, I kind of like had the thought, like, I was thinking to myself, who does Luffy and the gang really primarily fight? And like it's actually been a mixed bag. He fights pirates and he fights the government and the navy and stuff. So it's like realistically
the back-to-back arcs of you got Alabasta, right? Yeah, that shows you how terrifying a pirate could be, and then you got Enies Lobby that shows you how terrifying the world government is.
Yeah.
And then you get the chaos of Marineford sitting on top, where you get anarchy fighting authoritarianism and showing you that any extreme is evil.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
The one faction that, or type of people that I would say so far do really seem completely bad are the Divine Dragon people. What are they called?
Oh, Celestial
Dragons.
Yeah, they seem like total dickbags.
Well, yeah, I think they're designed specifically to be the most hated things in the world. I mean, I don't think they have any, like, at least from what I've seen anyway, they don't seem to have any redeemable quality whatsoever. They seem to be perverted, like they seem to be perverted, incredibly mean. They look down on the poor. They look down on everybody. So like, I don't think they have any redeemable quality given what I've seen of them so far, which hasn't been a lot now, admittedly, but
yeah,
well,
I've only seen them.
I am not saying a word.
Okay,
Nothing.
Don't say a word.
I didn't even insinuate spoilers. Zero. But anyway, back on track to the
hold on,
Marineford
because I want to talk about the Celestial Dragon stuff. I think that in terms of them, they are probably an important aspect in the future of why the world government is the way it is, and what is the secret behind the Void Century. 100%. Because it's like, they do stick out as these incredibly negative,
and they were brought up as well in the flashback with Ace and Luffy. So like they aren't brought up and introduced in these different scenarios just because they're there, because they serve a purpose narratively within the story. So that's an example of a very glaring breadcrumb that I need to keep a tab on, and I have like, but it's definitely there for a reason. They play. I'm guessing. I think it would be a pretty safe bet to guess now with yourself that like, they will play a massive part in the story, or at least the motivations of certain characters moving forward.
Yeah, it's like a missing piece of the puzzle. It's like, why are they so powerful? Why do people give them so much value?
No, absolutely.
It seems to not make sense until something else falls into place. But yeah, so let's get into the whole flashback. The only other thing before the flashback I wanted to talk about is I thought it was cool how we learned that Blackbeard, when he went to level 6 of Impel Down, he was like, among these worst of the worst criminals in the world, he's like, you all fight to the death, and whoever survives, I'm gonna pick for my crew. I thought that was pretty badass.
Oh, he's just so cold-blooded. And the thing is, right, when I first saw him way back in Jaya, I didn't, like, obviously we don't know who he is at that time. I actually almost didn't cover him in the video because I thought it was such a non-thing. I just thought the interaction with Luffy was interesting because it kind of mirrored, like, what happened with Shanks in the first chapter. That was the only reason why I talked about it.
Yeah,
well, I thought it was a fascinating introduction to a villain, as opposed to usually when some big villain is introduced, it's like, they just destroyed this entire city single-handedly. With Blackbeard, you got Luffy saying, oh, the pie is disgusting, and Blackbeard's like, what are you talking about? The pie is amazing. And then he's like, but this drink, though, oh, the beer is horrible. And Luffy's like, what are you saying? The drink's great. It's like, that's the introduction. It's like, I love it.
Like, it's polar opposites with, like, the same, also, like they both believe in the same thing, but they're polar opposites.
Yes, and what I mean by it's so valuable to have an antagonist like Blackbeard, Blackbeard says to Luffy, don't give up on your dream to go to Sky Island. Accomplish your dreams.
Oh, well, no, absolutely. Like, I mean, like, if you want to look at it even, like, from, like, a narrative theory point of view, like active characters within a story are like the most interesting ones because they drive the plot forward. Luffy is an interesting protagonist because he's obviously the hero of the story, but he is chosen to be the hero of the story by Oda because he is designed to be an active character. He drives the story forward. He does things that will incite plot to happen. And sort of the opposite of Luffy then is the bad version, which is Blackbeard, and Blackbeard will incite things that will push the story forward. Like obviously everything that he's done now like has completely changed and ended a particular era. So like that'll tell you in and of itself is a massive thing. And Luffy does something as well during this arc that I thought was really, or I say Luffy, that's how you know I'm getting really sucked in. Oda does a really fucking cool thing with Luffy where it's presented initially as like setting up the like, or like showing to the world that the next era is coming. And when I read that, I was like, that's sort of a weird thing to do because they already did that with Whitebeard. But it actually had a separate purpose, and that blew my mind. It was really good.
Yes. And so when we do actually get into the flashback, we learn how Luffy and Ace met, how they became brothers. We learn about who Dadan is because this person I first thought was Luffy's mother because she was mentioned before by Garp, I believe. I mean, and I had no idea who it was, and I thought, okay, well, Luffy has to have a mother, but maybe it's her.
As a man that's never interrupted you before in my life, I apologize sincerely, but you did skip a very cool scene before the flashback, and that is, it cuts back to Marineford, and you have all the warlords, primarily being Doflamingo, standing over Gecko Moria, who's bleeding on the ground, and he says, "You're not strong enough to bear the title of a warlord. Doesn't died in battle at the Summit War have a nice ring to it as opposed to discarded by the world government?" And then Gecko's like, "Nani? You're really going to kill me over this?" And he's like, "Well, let's just say it came from the higher-ups, you know?"
Yeah, I don't know what the higher-up
means. We didn't get to see him actually kill him, right?
No, you don't.
No, we don't. Well, like, I mean, like, when I was in the manga, you definitely didn't see it. So I don't know what the shoot... I don't know. All you guys are watching the anime, or are you reading the manga as well?
We're doing the manga.
Okay, cool. So yeah, it definitely doesn't happen in the manga.
Yeah, it doesn't happen in the manga, but I mean, you know, hell yeah.
And then again, thank you, Nux.
You're gonna mention the flashback, but before you mention the flashback, there was another very powerful moment that Luffy was kind of unconscious. He was all bandaged up when they brought him back, and when Luffy wakes up, he starts crying and he says, "Ace is dead, isn't he?" Like first he's punching things, he's going ballistic. Yeah, and then he accepts the reality and just breaks down.
Yeah, it's like there's like two really powerful Luffy moments that sort of bookend the story of Ace and Luffy's childhood together before they leave their journey, and that whole flashback itself, I think that flashback might be a part that's slept on. I get a feeling that it is because of what happens afterwards, but that flashback, narratively speaking, in terms of writing, is so ludicrously hard to pull off, given that you are 590 some odd chapters deep into your story, and you have to recontextualize everything that's happened in the story within this particular flashback that is effectively acting as a prequel to the actual story itself, which is just insane to me because it adds so much context to how Luffy is and like how Luffy is the way that he is and what his relationship was like with Ace. Like, I cried a whole separate time for Ace because I learned what his final words were to Luffy and how that sort of it added more weight to those last words because they had extra meaning exposed to us through those flashbacks. Like,
yes,
I don't know, it's maddening. It's such a good story.
It was very unique. I also thought that was very unique because when Ace actually dies, we know very little about him. Like, obviously, we know that he's important to Luffy, but we didn't get to spend much time with him at all. And then subsequently, so after his death, we actually get to see his backstory, which is a very unique approach to take. And yet, as you said, it really gives you so much more context for that moment.
Yeah.
No, do you 100%. Think it could have been better if a flashback was given prior to Ace's death?
No.
I actually firmly disagree, and I'll tell you why.
I'm just asking. I'm curious from the version's perspective.
No, I actually talk about this in the video that I'm going to be releasing, but it's sort of, it really emphasized for me, first of all, that like Oda is someone that doesn't really, like, he doesn't worry about people watching. People are going to be watching and reading at this point anyway, and he wants to tell the story the way that he thinks is best to tell it. And when I didn't know that much about Ace going into Marineford, it gave him the opportunity to focus on Whitebeard and Ace and their relationship, which is sort of the crux of that particular arc. If you had another flashback catering specifically to adding emotional weight to his ultimate death, it not only might feel sort of foreshadowed that way, I don't think it would work. It would have worked as well, because I think us caring about that moment comes from us not wanting Luffy to be sad, because when Ace dies, we're witnessing the single worst moment in Luffy's life. A person that we have, followed for like 590 chapters at that point. And when you see a character that is at the front of every book described as someone with boundless optimism, when you see this person like just fall into a catatonic state of just sadness, it breaks your heart, because this person meant a lot to him. And then you ask the question, why does it mean a lot to him? And then we get and then we find out later in the subsequent flashbacks. So we have more of an interest then in that particular flashback because of what's happened. And then it gets the opportunity then to recontextualize the entire interaction, giving it an entirely different sort of flavor, which is just crazy good.
And I thought it was very interesting in terms of the whole Luffy perspective. It's like, we see everything that Luffy is willing to go through to get to Ace, go break into Impel Down, which is considered insane, and then go to participate in the Marineford battle. So we know from that alone that Ace is important because he is so important to Luffy. So we don't need to know exactly why. We can feel it. And then, as you said, we learn more about it later with the flashback. And the flashback is really interesting because at first of all, like I mentioned earlier, we learn about Dodano, who's this bandit woman, and Garp gives both Luffy and Ace to her to watch over. And at first, Ace hates Luffy, wants nothing to do with him. He's always ditching Luffy. Luffy's like for months trying to follow Ace wherever Ace is going. He's getting like attacked by animals, injured, all this type of stuff.
Yeah.
And Luffy really has to earn Ace's friendship in a way that makes it more meaningful when they do eventually become friends and brothers. It kind of, I don't know, it all comes together.
It's really interesting too to see like the dynamic that Ace and Luffy have at that age, because we know Luffy as a character, but we don't really know Ace, and it's a really good opportunity to see Ace in both a commanding sort of closed off state and in a much more emotional opening up state, and we kind of see both sides of Ace in that regard. But what I thought was kind of really interesting, and this was something that I didn't think needed to be done, but Oda did it anyway, and it was change Luffy's character slightly. It's sort of like making him more childish, so he'd be crying more. He's still like the fundamental components of what makes Luffy are there, but it's more raw, it's less refined, and we find out then later that like what makes him the refined version of who he is that we all know, it's Ace. He was the missing ingredient. He was the one that made Luffy a man, sort like in some sort of weird way.
Yeah, Oda's done that with really every single flashback of the Straw Hats. Like when you look at Sanji, when you look at Nami, when you look at Luffy, even Zoro, like every single flashback, he shows that they're flawed and they make mistakes, and they're a little bit, or not a little bit, much more immature than they are now.
Yeah.
Right? And it just shows like, because it's hard, like these are already developed characters when we meet them. And it's just different because a lot of times they start off young or they start off immature and we see them grow along the way, but it's done in reverse for One Piece.
Yeah, because we meet them at like 17, 18, 19, right? So they're already pretty much adults, young adults, but adults nonetheless. And so one thing that I've always like I'm very hesitant to like when protagonists in shonen are too overpowered and there's no explanation for it. They're just gifted, whatever. So I like the fact that with Luffy, yeah, so we see him initially with the Shanks thing. He's a kid. Then we have the time skip 10 years, and now he's this strong pirate who can use his devil fruit very effectively. With this flashback, we actually got all the evidence or all the information on how hard he trained, how he learned to use his devil fruit. And it was funny because at first Ace even mocks him, saying this rubber devil fruit isn't good for fighting because it's rubber. So I thought that was so ironic, knowing how OP.
Yeah. It's like, we get a little bit of dramatic.
Oda is so great because you at first, like I was saying, that they're developed like character wise, but also they start off a little bit OP, but then Mihawk comes out of nowhere, like okay, they're not overpowered at all. Like he set up the world like right from the start, like okay, these are strong, developed characters, but they have a long way to go.
Oh, massive! Like that was like again, like it's like I think Marineford kind of almost acted like that in some sort of similar way as well, with like characters like Whitebeard making their presence felt. You really get a sense of okay, this guy's on a completely different level.
Also, Luffy failed. Like Luffy. All that.
That's my favorite thing about Luffy, though, is that he fails regularly.
Yeah,
it's just like it adds so much drama and suspense.
I think he's never failed in an irreparable fashion
to
before.
This extent.
Like this is the first failure that he can't actually come back. He can't like fix it at this point.
Oh no, he can't. No, 100%.
Like he thought he had to like snap. Like he was like, I pinched my cheeks so much. Like Ace is dead, right? And like you see him bawling, which is so out of character. Because like Mark said, he's always optimistic, always cheerful. And like this is the one time you see him just absolutely break down.
Inconsolable. Yeah. And it breaks your heart because you know who he is at that point. Yeah. You know he's like never like that, and you know something.
I think the only other time he felt and I think that Oda did a great job building up to this, this state of being that he's in. Do you remember when, what's his name, big guy Kuma, a man of God, holds a Bible? You heard of him? So he goes around. Yeah, the legends. He went and he kind of evaporated a bunch of straw hats in front of Luffy's face. Like he would touch them and they would disappear. And he thought they all died. And by the time when they all disappeared, Luffy didn't even continue fighting anymore. Revenge won't fix anything. He just plops down on the ground and he's like, I couldn't even save one. And that's the same feeling of complete loss. But then when he gets teleported away and he realizes that they're not dead, they're just kind of dispersed all over the world. He's like, he can put himself back together. He can get back up again.
Yeah.
Because he knows it's not irreparable. But for that one moment where he thought all was lost, he was destroyed. So we see that this is very in character.
Yeah, and that's a fantastic point.
Yeah. Now he's not just snapping out of it. Oh, it was all just a dream. No.
The entire arc is about him failing and like picking himself back up, and like you see that through, like there's actually a small moment, like to your point, there's a really small moment in Amazon Lily where like Luffy's faced with a similar problem where like 3 people he's befriended on this adventure in that particular jungle who stood up for him got turned to stone, and he's fighting on their behalf and stuff. But then Boa Hancock, and this is sort of good because it kind of ties her motivation.
She can undo it.
Yeah, she says like I can undo it, or I can take you to your destination where you where you feel like you need to go, and it's not even a question for him.
Right, he just instantly. Oh yeah, please revive them, thanks.
Yeah, it's not even a question because like he values like his value system is the right one. He values human.
Whatever his value system is, whether it's the right one or the wrong one, that's
it's his
debate. But it's his.
Yeah, it's his value.
And he
system.
sticks to it.
Yeah, no, 100%. And like, as you said, then like it acts as like a nice way of saying like, okay, Luffy's picking himself back up again. He's learning from his mistake. He's going to gather up the Straw Hats. Oh wait, no, he's not going to gather up the Straw Hats. He's going to go save his brother. That's fine. And as well, I think something that I was going to criticize One Piece for, but actually never did, was it doesn't really deal with death a lot. Like it usually just ends up knocking people out, or people end up dusting themselves off and walking away into the sunset kind of thing. People don't really die in the show. And so when you get a scene like Ace is participating in, you think, okay, going into it, I was thinking, okay, he's got like a 70% chance of living, I feel, because like, every subsequent time it came close to him being, nixed, he'd be, fucking Croc would save him.
Luffy just barely saved him. Crocodile barely saved him.
Yeah.
Right. And then
Mr. 3 then and stuff, like, it's all done really
add
well.
Icing on the cake was Whitebeard dying, still standing there.
Yeah, no, I don't know. It's a bonkers thing, but like again, to your like to all your point, the death is like so perfectly earned, and then it's dealt with. The like you're forced to deal with it slowly through the flashback by befriending yourself. You are getting to know this character that you know is dead, and you're like learning to love him all the more, and then you kind of like,
and
I'm
I
all
just
sad
love
all over
how
again.
it's the whole world that mourns them too. It's like you have that one scene of Shanks and Marco looking at the big tombstones of Whitebeard and Ace, and they're
that was very cool. That was a very cool.
And Marco says like, "Red hair, I can't thank you enough. Thank you so much for all of this." Like there are some really really powerful scenes like just throughout the world, everyone's reaction, and that's another thing that's just amazing about One Piece. It's that every massive event like this, you got the perspective from all the supernovas, you got all the Straw Hats, you got all the remnants of the pirates, all the world government people.
Well, you got to remember, this is such a big thing, not just because of the execution, but mainly because a world power is gone, right? The entire balance of the world is now out of balance, and like you see, it's like I'm pretty sure these episodes or these chapters start off with the supernovas literally reacting to Whitebeard's death, and then
So one thing I want to say also, in terms of what Mark was saying, is that in terms of the death, I think when we start off with the journey, it does feel like no one's gonna really die. Like a lot of people you think are dead, but they're actually just beat up and all that type of stuff. And I think the first time that I saw that, death is gonna be a thing here was Bellemere, even though it was a flashback. But then, as we go on, you definitely see that One Piece goes has this balance. Walks this tightrope between jokes and lighthearted and serious. And sometimes it's more lighthearted and people don't die and they just get beat up, or they're villains, but then they end up being less villainy, like Wapol,
Or you could be like Usopp in Alabasta, where he gets his head smashed in, and Oda literally takes the time to show his skull fracturing into 1,000 pieces, and then he just shakes it off in a couple of days.
Exactly. Yeah, because so there's a lot of moments like that.
Usopp
but then there's also
Usopp is the Super Saiyan of One Piece. But
he's Super Saiyan God, one would say.
I would say so. But
anyway,
as Luffy, after Luffy's going crazy with that whole thing, you have Jinbei slam him into the ground. And I still think this is one of my favorite manga panels in One Piece. It's you have Luffy bandaged up, like crying, staring at the ground with all the Straw Hats behind him, and he says, "I still have my friends." Like at the end of the day, the future is what matters. The past can't be changed. Yeah. Like it's a powerful philosophical ideal. It's beautiful.
I actually make a point of saying this in my video too, is that like that specifically is a really important message to give Shonen Jump's viewer base, because it's a lesson that literally everyone throughout their entire lives at some point will need to deal with. Like everyone has someone that they love. Everyone has someone that's going to eventually go away. And that's a really harrowing thought, and it's one that we never want to actually deal with. But Oda does it really elegantly here, and it's done so well through a character like Luffy that I just absolutely adore.
Yeah, because Luffy at this point is so
broken,
depressed, and so obsessed with the fact that Ace is no longer around. And then Jinbei makes him think of the future, and then he remembers, I have my crew members that I love who are currently lost, and I need to find them. So I still have this purpose. I still have to, keep pushing onward towards the future. But let's go back to the time skip, because we have a third brother that we didn't talk about, and that is Sabo, who is this guy who was the son of aristocrats, but he hated that life. It was too stifling. They wanted him to have this strict regimen, to marry a royal woman and all this type of stuff. He had no freedom being a key thing here in this whole flashback. So he decides to live in Trash Mountain, which is this area where it's basically just scavengers live there. And it's a bunch of trash. And that is where he meets Ace, and the two of them are planning to become pirates. They're gathering this treasure together in order to buy a ship. And eventually Luffy finds them, and then there's this really cool moment that I thought was very emotional. Luffy keeps trying to be Ace's friend, and Ace is like, "Bro, leave me alone. I don't want anything to do with you. I don't know who you are." And then at one point, Ace is like, "Man, it's like, why do you want so bad to be my friend?" And Luffy's like, "Because I have no one else."
There's just like that. I think that specific interaction is the sweetest interaction I think I've seen in One Piece, specifically because like one of the few things that we know about Ace going into this particular flashback is that Ace sort of resents his own existence to a large extent and always expects everyone to think of him as someone that isn't worth being alive or shouldn't be alive, and that him being alive is actually a problem.
Yeah.
And so he's always taken aback by people, like he's always expecting people to say something along the lines of you exist, therefore you're bad. But with Luffy, he's like the only person in Ace's life who will literally have the philosophy of you exist, therefore I love you, which is just such a fucking amazing. It's like it's thematically it just works so well. I love that.
Yeah, it was a great moment, and then we see the buildup of the relationship between Ace, Luffy, and Sabo to the point where they swear an oath to become brothers, and then you understand why they call each other brothers. Yeah,
and I think that this stands as so far the second best backstory in One Piece, after Brook. Third best after Brook, then Buggy.
No, there's a lot of good flashbacks in One Piece.
I don't know. I'd probably say this might be my favorite, and the second favorite then would be Robin. Maybe I actually really like Robin's as well.
That's fair. I love Robin's also.
I like Robin's too.
I think that
Nami's a lot.
Brooks' backstory is the most underrated because I think he's a relative. He's not like he's never. Speaking of ranking Straw Hats, like you wanted to do at some point, Mark, which we should totally do. Animek, if you decide to get sick one week, that I would cry for you, of course. But Mark, you're invited.
Happy to join.
And like as far as Straw Hats, as you mentioned, there's an upper echelon and like a lower tier. I think Brook is generally regarded as the lower tier, but Brook's backstory, bro, that's dealing with death, man. That's that's a backstory that I love.
Oh no, Brook's backstory I think it could be the most harrowing. It's like it is low key the most harrowing. I just think for me it's kind of like I think a lot of it has to do maybe with the fact that I don't necessarily like Brook as much as a character because I love Nico Robin, and I like Brook is interesting, but he also has an aspect to him that I don't like, and it's whatever, you know. So it's, you know.
I mean, he's pretty cringy at times, but I think that's kind of
no. The cringiness is actually great. I actually think it's really endearing. It's just when he out of nowhere he comes and says things like, "Oh, I want to sniff your panties." Like, okay, that's not. It's like it's a shit joke.
I don't understand. Isn't that what you do? Isn't that what we all do? I don't get it. Who doesn't do that?
That's a normal interaction. I thought.
Mark, I disagree with you because he doesn't just do that. He asks very politely,
like a gentleman.
As a gentleman, he's like, "May I?" Please see your panties.
Show me your panties.
Mark, and then Nami, the barbarian, slaps him.
I'm not punishing anyone. I'm just saying it's my Irish Catholic guilt that's stopping me. Okay, it's a cultural thing, guys. Okay, it's a cultural thing.
But what if he said, "May I please see your cunt"?
You know what? I'm actually not too mad because that wasn't an offensively bad accent. It wasn't.
Yeah, no, it was perfectly accurate, 100%, bro.
Well, I was offended for you. Don't worry.
No, but I remember you were saying the C word is actually endearing, so that's what I'm saying. Maybe you would change your mind if he was saying this.
Yeah, no. In Ireland, swearing is like.
Yeah, but I don't think it's referring to the actual, piece of human anatomy. I think.
Yeah, I know. The thing is, like, when someone says a swear word, it's just a sound. That's all it is.
It's like instead of they say, they replace it with something else that fits better.
Yeah, and nobody better clip that shit that I just said, guys.
You should not
that's
have
crazy.
said that.
So anyway, what we had then was with Sabo. We had the whole thing where he ends up going back. He's forced back into the aristocratic circles, and he's like, he can't be with Luffy and Ace, and he's like, fuck this. He steals a fishing ship, and he hoists the pirate flag, and he decides to go on this journey on his own for freedom. And then his ship is shot down by that celestial dragon douche, which speaks to what we were saying earlier about the celestial dragons being just such conceited douchebags. The only things that I'm seeing so far that are just black and white.
Speak for yourself. As a conceited douchebag myself, I am very offended by all of this.
No, I know you are a conceited douchebag, but
no, the thing is, like, about Sabo, I thought Sabo was kind of cool, but like he didn't really get, like, he got a little bit of characterization, but it was kind of more to fuel the conflict for Luffy and Ace. But the fact that, like, this is just me looking at it like from an artistic point of view, he looks like a character that is stylized such a way that, like, he's going to show up again as an adult somewhere. I feel like that has, because we didn't see a body, we didn't see anything. I feel like he has to show up sometime.
Well, now that you mention, I won't say.
No, yeah, I agree with you because it was interesting. I thought that it was cool how when the crew, I think it was the crew or was it someone else, who was talking about the Marineford and Luffy being there and saying we didn't see his body, so he's probably alive.
Yeah,
I thought that was like an interesting hint at the fact that we didn't see.
But it's also framed
Sabo's
as like
body.
them being wishful thinking. Like that they like they're always going to assume that he's alive, but it's kind of framed, I think, more in like, oh, he's not actually alive, but we're going to like continue on remembering him like he is alive or something.
Yeah,
like
we only saw Sabo's hat, so we'll see.
Yeah,
but
bro, hats are important in that family.
Yeah, they absolutely are.
But can I mention something else that has a little bit to do with the flashback that's really cool?
Well, let me just before
3D2Y.
Okay, hold on, because I still have.
I
to
wasn't
talk
asking you because I wanted your answer. I was doing it because I'm a gentleman.
Hold on, I want to talk about Sabo first before we move on, because Mark, what you said, you thought that he was not as important, but I think it was important to have, because freedom was such a big theme here, right? So we eventually have.
Oh, absolutely.
Ace went off when he was 17. Then later on, Luffy goes off when he's 17, and they're both going to pursue their own like journey for freedom.
Oh,
I thought that Sabo had his own freedom story there that was pretty important.
Oh no, he definitely did. Like, by the way, I'm not saying that his story wasn't important. It was integral specifically to like a bunch of different characters. I'm just saying that like it wasn't given a lot of like we weren't sad for Sabo because of Sabo. We were kind of sad of Sabo predominantly because of his proximity to the characters that we actually do care about. I
mean, yeah, we definitely don't know as much about him, or
I was sad for Sabo because his front two teeth didn't look very useful.
Facts about it.
Weak front teeth on that lad.
But yeah, Sabo's a character I could definitely see coming back in the future because I didn't see no body.
And you know who else is an underrated character?
All along. Sorry.
You know who else is an underrated character, guys? The adopted brother of Sabo. That guy's coming back for sure.
Oh, that I actually kind of had like a kind of my own kind of headcanon. I was like, oh, that's definitely Helmeppo. Like he's an absolute asshole. But like because he had like the same like dickhead haircut
of One Piece.
Yeah, I called Helmeppo the Aizen of One Piece.
Wait, have you seen Bleach, Mark?
I've seen the first 35 episodes and I didn't like it.
Oh, you're like Animac. He also watched the first episode and claims to have watched 35.
I did watch like 30, but yeah.
Yeah, next week is 27, and then you go ahead and give Hunter a -4 out of 10.
I was so upset at you, bro, but not as upset as the fact that you didn't talk about 3D2Y yet.
Well, that is more towards the end, but I'm down to talk about it now. Oh,
that is towards the end. One other thing that is really important, it comes out in the flashback, but also in the present, is the revolutionaries. So in the flashback, Dragon, Ivankov, and Kuma are shown to be revolutionaries, and they end up saving those people from Trash Mountain after the government there tries to burn the whole thing to make the place look nicer, I guess, for the inspection. So they save a bunch of them and put them on their ship. So they show up there. And then we learn more about these revolutionaries as we go on. We have them saving Robin. Obviously, we know they saved Robin and those people that were enslaved, building that huge bridge.
Robin is so fucking cool. Like she
is cool. But it's like, why were they building that bridge for centuries? Like what?
Yeah, there's little character things that like I really love about those little flashbacks. Like there's a little kind of character moment with Robin that didn't need to be there, but it was, and it was very informed by the fact that she was the one saying it. That like she didn't want to go down into the lower decks because she doesn't trust them yet. She's a person that really finds it difficult to trust people for obvious reasons. Yeah. But like I just like little things like that that just keep like reminding us that these are actually characters that are fleshed out, that have personalities, that are saying things that are informed because of the things that have happened in the past. And I just like that. I think it's worth mentioning.
Yeah, and it turns out that every island that each Straw Hat member is on ends up having something crucial for their development, for making them stronger in the future. And so it ends up working out that way, where they're all now working on themselves to get stronger,
except so that they can.
Well, no, he's working on his recipes.
His is just torture.
No, but he's working on. Has to find these recipes, the Kama Karate or something like that, right? The idea is that through food you can make your friends stronger. You can make their body stronger.
Oh yeah. I also found it kind of
like food.
Isn't it kind of ironic that like Nami landed on Weather Island where she can learn about her weather powers?
Yeah, total coincidence that Kuma, this extremely very fascinating character that worked with the revolutionaries who are somehow tied to Luffy, happened to send all of them to literally the perfect place. Crazy coincidence, right?
Actually, now that you mentioned it, I was just thinking, Oda put him on there because of he wanted them on these islands, which is obviously true. But then, I wasn't even thinking of that Kuma might have calculated it specifically for some reason. That's a good point.
Well, no. I mean, obviously Kuma like sent them to like a safe place. But like obviously the kind of like the idea behind the individual Straw Hats should be clear to see. Maybe some are more difficult to understand, like Usopp's and Luffy's. Luffy specifically, I'm not even sure why he was sent there specifically. Maybe because of his proximity.
Because he wanted his boy to finally become a man.
Kuma, the ultimate wingman.
Well, it did work out. Whether Kuma knew it would work out, I'm not sure, but it definitely worked out because of Boa. And then in terms of Usopp, you're right. Like I thought the island was cool. It's like a giant carnivorous plant.
He got fat
but then what?
Ooh, people in chat are saying that he sent Luffy there to learn hockey, which is a good point because the Kuja clan are very strong women warriors who use hockey, right?
I was focusing more on the woman warriors part, but I'm with you, Briggs.
And obviously Zoro's super obvious. He sent him to literally where the strongest swordsman in the world
I know. I thought Zoro and
Mihawk conversation was fire. You get Zoro saying, I don't take orders from you. I'm going to sea. And Mihawk says, okay. And then at the end, when he finally gets the code, which we'll get to, he says, he gets on all fours and he's bowing to him. And he says, teach me the way of the sword. And Mihawk says, I am disappointed in you, Roronoa. You mean to ask your very enemy to teach you? Know your shame. And Zoro says, I want you to teach me so I can surpass you. That's such a great freaking moment. Holy crap.
I thought the whole Mihawk Zoro Perona pairing was really cool. For sure.
Hell yeah.
I'm kind of curious though. Like, I mean, obviously now with the whole kind of thought process being that Kuma sent them all there with particular purposes, did he just send Perona randomly to Hawkeye, or like what was her deal? I don't think I know
because she gets sent like earlier, right? And then
she gets sent earlier. Yeah, exactly.
Maybe
that's how you know.
Kuma's just a wingman, man. He's like, wow, Hawkeye's there all by himself. He has no friends.
No, but I do think that Zoro over there, I know it's not a big scene, but I love every Zoro moment. I feel like every single one paints a picture of his character. Like, he's a very prideful man. He's a prideful swordsman, and he drops all of his pride for that one moment when he starts kneeling in front of Mihawk. It's a powerful moment.
And it's not for him either. That's the thing, though.
Because he realizes.
I think he's definitely the perfect first mate to Luffy.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, no, he definitely. I think he kind of proves that as well.
Speaking of first mates, we met the first mate of the king.
Man.
Animac.
Nox,
bro.
I've
never interrupted you before, so this is horrible.
Have some consideration when someone else is talking. It's really rude and annoying.
Well, it depends who's talking. If it's you, I don't have consideration, but if it's most other people, I try.
You're not funny, man.
I was laughing.
No one thinks you're funny. The chat was saying that Perona actually requested to be shipped off to a weird castle. So maybe
that's so true. That's so fucking true.
I didn't remember that. Okay, that's crazy.
That's class. Okay, yeah, no.
But speaking of first mates, thank you, Animac, for that lovely piece of information. It was great. I'm glad I didn't interrupt you this time. Speaking of amazing first mates, first mate of the king.
This absolute Chad lad. This dude, he swam through the entire calm belt. Bruh. Confirmed he doesn't have a double fruit. He's just pure hockey and pure badass. And he's
basically the Jedi of like
like the Marines had to develop a system in order to go through the calm belt. Pirates, stay away from it. Everyone it's literally like a graveyard if you go there, because it's a sea of Neptunians or Sea Kings, whatever you want to call them. This man just like, all right, I'm gonna go for a swim.
Yeah. He swims from Sabo the archipelago to Amazon Lily, which is quite far. Actually, is it like said that he's basically swimming for like a large portion of his time of the time that Luffy spent in Marineford, or did he swim there after that? I can't. Oh no, he must have, because I think Luffy was like asleep for a week or something, wasn't he?
I think it was after what happened in Marineford, because he went there with a specific reason, and assuming that's where Luffy would end up.
And
you thought Aokiji was cool with his bicycle? Ha!
Yeah, no, and the funny thing about Rayleigh is he's like, oh man, I'm getting old. I'm really not,
Yeah, but like he also like is like one of those characters that will come and like, okay, the plot's happening now. Luffy, I got a proposition, and like we are like, ooh, what's the proposition? And then we don't actually hear what the proposition is. Instead, we get a really freaking cool selection of scenes of everyone else reacting to what Luffy did, which is just
yes. So that was crazy. So everyone gets the newspapers where they find out that Luffy did this crazy thing, but it's not revealed to us what Luffy did. And the cool thing was, everyone, as soon as they realized that Ace died and that Luffy needs them, they freak out. They're like, I gotta get back to Luffy. And it's so funny, like a lot of them were really good, but Sanji's in particular I thought was great, where he's there with Ivankov, and Ivankov's like, is this you, like the wanted poster? Because Sanji has to prove that he's part of the Straw Hats, and he hates that wanted poster so much, but because he wants to be there for Luffy, he's like, yes, it's me. Yes.
Now that is character development. It's like you have Zoro sacrificing his pride to study from the man that he wants to defeat, and then you have Sanji admitting that he has a goofy wanted poster. Clearly the same tier challenge.
Sanji's so much better.
Absolutely.
People are trying to correct me, saying that Rayleigh started in a ship and it sank, but it was a storm that took out the ship, and if it was a storm, storms don't happen in the calm belt, so either way he swam the entire calm belt, which is a very, very large distance from Sabaody.
Yeah.
It's mental. No, he's a really cool character, and like as I said, like all the different kind of like perspectives we get, like figuring out like, okay, we kind of like it basically asks the question to the reader is like, what do you think Luffy did? And we get to see Garp, and we get to see Aokiji, and we get to see Nami, and pretty much all the Straw Hats.
You get to see Kuma. You get to see all the supernovas. You have Law, who's concocting some plan. He says to his crew, "Stop blathering!" I just like the word blathering. And do as I say. There's a position. If there's a position I need, I'll take it. And you have all of his heart pirates. They're like, Captain! They're like standing Law as they should, because Law's amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, Law is a mystery to me. Law is a mystery to me so far, because he clearly helped Luffy, and yet he is also Luffy's rival in this new age of pirates. So I do want to know more about him and his bear. His bear, who was like, I hope there's some girl bears on the Amazon Lily.
Also, Animac, one of the supernovas specifically says, like, why did Law show up? He wouldn't have went there just to help out. He has some ulterior motive for sure.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wonder what that is.
You know, like, because I mean, like, all he did was, I think, save Luffy, but that could be he could be hiding something that he did and using saving Luffy as a means of covering his tracks too. But that seems like a massive gamble. I think that's particular. I personally think that particular suspicion that I have is wrong. Like, it must have something specific to do with Luffy, and he must have information that he's not letting on, because he, again, to your point, he doesn't seem like the kind of person to do that. And then people even make note of that in the actual in the actual arc itself. People actually say that this isn't like him to do something like this. He's way more cold-blooded. He's way more ruthless.
Yeah, because he could want Luffy, because obviously Luffy has shown himself to be quite a unique individual. He might want Luffy in order to gain advantage over some of the other competition that they have.
Yeah,
who knows?
Yeah.
Oh, and so there was one brief moment with the five elders, the heads of the world government. Yeah, so they were saying that they are very concerned about the fact that the public is finding out about the name D.
Yeah.
So that was a little thing that I thought was important that was included there.
The will of D kind of thing is kind of like interesting to me, because like I'm not entirely sure what to necessarily make of it. There's been the whole reason why they did the whole like killings of all the babies to kind of prevent it's like anyone who has D in their name sort of gets like the will of the last person's like reincarnated into them, so to speak. And I think that's why they wanted to kill Ace and stuff. But like I'm not entirely sure how that works yet, or how flexible that is, or how much of an exact science that is. Like, it's just like there's so little known about it that all he can do is speculate. I think
because it wouldn't. Sorry,
it's Ace's just a letter,
will,
bro.
Ace's will wouldn't be like Ace wouldn't take on his father's will, because his father died much sooner than him, right? So I don't think it's necessarily blood ties thing. But yeah, we just
don't know.
Blood
ties thing because wasn't one of the giants way back when was something teach
at O'Hara.
Yeah,
Jaguar D Sol.
Yeah, it's like I think as far back as like I want to say Skypia, I was saying that it couldn't have been something to do with family. I eliminated that as an option. It couldn't have been. I think like my current theory, and it still hasn't been disproven, is that at one point in time there was a very specific, very important pirate crew that all had the D initial, and they had some magic that might be associated with the cubes that Robin's trying to find. Maybe, I don't know, but maybe
you call the poneglyphs the cubes.
Yeah, the poneglyphs. That's the word. But yeah,
well, I think
I heard pubes.
Yeah. So then, can you explain like why does D have a value if their great grandparents were in a crew together?
It's not like so why is like so I suppose to answer that question I would need to be able to answer why is Goldie Rogers significant? Why is he the way that he is? Why is he an important person? And you can like at the beginning of the story, it's just because he's a tenacious person. That's what you're kind of like led to believe. But there's way more to the story than we actually know then and there in that moment. So I have no way of knowing if I am just as ignorant in this moment as I will be 500 or 400 chapters from now when I can just look at this particular question again. I have no idea. But like, I think maybe there might have been one particular crew at one particular point in time that were like excessively powerful, and instead of losing, they just decided to pass on who they are, their essence, to like the next generation. The same way like the Avatar, when he dies, he gets put into a new baby or something.
That's an interesting.
So
I mean, I feel like it is something
so you're
along
saying
those lines, but yeah.
If it's a crew though, then you're saying it's a crew that had to exist before Gold Roger, before the Pirate King.
Maybe it would need to.
I mean, it has to be. And I wonder if it's tied to. It doesn't have to be necessarily tied to the Void
Can't believe
Century
you just spoil that Avatar like that. But anyway,
the lost history. It doesn't have to necessarily be tied to that, but it is definitely like one of the mysteries, right? So the Void Century is a big mystery. The poneglyphs and the D. So it kind of goes together in that sense.
Yeah, I would be very, very surprised if the mystery surrounding the whole D situation isn't in some way or form connected to the Void Century. There's a huge amount of history that's missing, and like the government seems to express specific interest in making sure everyone forgets about that Void Century.
Well, I guess I could tell you a theory I had, because there's no spoilers in this theory. It's a theory that I had even at this point of my One Piece experience. Let me know what you think. I don't think I even told Animac, but so I'll tell you bits. I'll tell you everything I can tell you with zero spoilers.
Thank you.
So the we have this very interesting story with Enel on the moon, right?
Yep.
Like that was pretty wacky that there's a civilization there and everything. And we also have these poneglyphs that are indestructible. They were made during the Void Century. We don't know what's been going on. Ever since then, there's this crazy world government and these ridiculous nobles that are wearing spacesuits.
Oh, that's actually a really good shout. That's a really good shout. Oh my god.
And then you have their celestial dragons, right? And right now you have the letter D. I was just saying that this might be a thing, that a D kind of looks like a crescent moon.
Ooh.
So I had a theory that the current world government are people that came from space, and during the Void Century they took over and erased all that from history. That's my personal theory.
And the One Piece is actually the moon, and NL was on it all the time.
That was one of my theories, that the One Piece was actually the moon,
and
or in space or something.
Luffy wants to be he wants to be the freest man of the ocean. That's what the Pirate King is, and the moon. And I also love that the moon kind of controls the tides, doesn't it?
Yes. Well said.
Yeah.
So that was one of my.
It was the one thing that I thought you forgot to mention in your theory video, is that the moon controls the tides. But then you mentioned it in a next one or something.
Yeah, no, it's really cool. I actually really like that theory. It's really fun.
Yeah, it's a cool theory.
Yeah, because clearly the government is scared of the world government is scared of people learning about the Void Century, about the poneglyphs, and
they want to kill the D people.
Yeah, and they seem to be very scared of people learning about the D, and they want to get rid of the D. So,
Well, something happened. Like, there's definitely a connection there. If there isn't a connection there, then Oda is playing some kind of 4D chess that I have no idea what's going on.
When I remembered, no one told this one to me. I was so proud of myself when I was like, wait a second. They're wearing spacesuits!
I know it seems obvious when you point it out, but
yeah, I didn't see anyone talk about that.
No, like that's a really good observation because, like, obviously we're all aware of like the different cover chapters and stuff. Like, like there's like little stories there, like
right.
With Wappo's toy store and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
Like, and I do specifically remember looking at the kind of like little adventure that Enel had on the moon. But like and like what the friggin', I suppose I kind of put whatever the celestial dragons were wearing in the back of my head because it was in Shabaudi and stuff, and there's bubbles everywhere there anyway. So I don't know. Maybe was a celestial dragon wearing one of those kind of bubble helmet things on in the flashback?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yep. They were always wearing those bubble helmet things. I thought, and they look like spacesuits, bro.
They do. They do look like spacesuits. I'm not going to take that away from you.
Yeah, yes. I think that it's very interesting.
And I think it's also funny. Didn't the island of O'Hara, did that like library thing? Wasn't there a big telescope there? Am I wrong? I think there was.
Yeah, there was.
You're actually gonna like. I'm surrounded by One Piece manga right now, so I probably could check, but I'm not going to because I'm very
afraid. Makes sense.
Yeah. So, I'm very curious to find out about this, Void Century and what happened, because you have this remnants of an ancient civilization on the moon. You have these ancient civilizations in Jaya and Skypiea, right? And yeah, very interesting.
You may have thought the D stood for dragon, but it was me, Dio. Okay, fine. Had to do it. But anyway, wrapping up this arc though, there were a few more cool moments. Like you had Bonnie, one of the supernovas that was captured by Blackbeard and left tied there for the Marines.
Yeah, what the fuck, Blackbeard? She's hot. Why you do this? Why you do this, man?
She was the one that helped Zora.
Yes.
In Sabo, yeah.
Well, I mean, she also kind of helped herself. She didn't want an admiral to come, which didn't really.
I wouldn't want to touch Zoro, I'm just saying.
Respect to Blackbeard though, because he did say, "Listen, you're kind of weak, but if you want to be my woman, it's all good." So
he does say that.
Yeah.
And then you have 3D2Y secret code.
That blew my friggin' mind. I was like, oh, that's such a good fucking idea. It's such a good idea.
All right.
Oh, it's like,
and it's the perfect time for a training arc.
Yeah, no, it's the ideal time for a training arc, but like the whole like 3D2Y, it's like it's a tattoo that was there that was on his arm. It was just there just to give them a signal. And the only people that would understand it are them. And it's just it's just so fucking good. I don't know. Like it's one of those things where it wasn't like built up to for very long. It was all like it was a swerve that was, like created in the arc and then paid off in the arc, but it was just so satisfying when I saw it. I was like, oh, that's such a good fucking idea, Oda. Oh, so
good. He has a few good ideas from time to time.
Yeah, he's got a few good ideas.
Every now and then,
Does he ever take like I heard that he took like a massive break after, or like a big break after this? No. How long was his break?
I don't think he really took a break.
People like, well, like actually at the end of the chapter, if you turn the page, it says that I'm gone on vacation. I just don't know how
I
long
swear the longest he's ever not published for was like 5 weeks or something. Like,
that guy's an absolute lunatic.
He really is. What a legend.
What a legend. Like, when you look at other mangaka who go on multi-year hiatuses, like, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's just...
We also got, at the very end of the arc, we had Luffy training with Rayleigh and in the different ways of hockey. And I think 3 hockey types were were revealed. Observation hockey, armor hockey, and
armament, but that works too.
Yeah, armor hockey, and then there's one that like it's the conqueror hockey or something,
or
the
one that Shanks used and the one that Luffy used, but without even knowing he was using it.
Yeah. But I think okay, so like this is okay. I would be very surprised if like Oda specifically went out of his way to say, well, there are 3 kinds of hockey. I'm just waiting for someone just to kind of like, well, here's a 4th one. Like I'm waiting for that to happen. I'm like I'm just waiting for that. Whenever someone in a shonen says that there's only this is possible, only these 3 are possible, and like I'm usually it's like, well, it's time to subvert that later on. But I think
it's my extreme defecation hockey.
That's really good. But that arc itself, when it was like explaining the hockey, it was just like, because One Piece doesn't usually have instances of exposition where it's just saying this is how it is. It's usually all done very naturally, but in this particular instance it works really well, and because it's so different to how we normally receive information, it's like, yes, give me the information, I want the information, you know.
And speaking of hockey though, like there was a pretty cool Conqueror's hockey moment in the backstory. Ace used Conqueror's hocky.
Yeah, he did.
As a kid.
He did. He absolutely fucking did.
Yeah.
No, that was really cool. Like, again, like and it wasn't really drawn attention to at all, but it just happened, and I'm like, that's fucking class. I think that's really
yeah. So I was wondering about that moment. I didn't realize that it was Conqueror's hockey. I just saw him like holding his stick, and then the next scene was everyone's down. So I didn't know if he actually like beat him up with the stick or if they just went down.
No.
You could usually tell from the eyes in One Piece. Like when Rayleigh, when Shanks, even when
shows
Luffy, they always show
the pupils really tiny with like the white around it, and then like a black little circle.
Okay. Oh yeah, another moment, chat. Thank you. Was Dadan versus Garp in the present time when Garp returns to Windmill Village, and Dadan is furious that he let Ace be killed.
Yeah, man. Especially because, you know, Dadan's Blackbeard's mom, too.
Oh, God, stop. Anyway, no, but I loved Dadan. First she's like this bandit. Like, I don't care about these kids. You don't get it. You get very little food. You have to provide for yourself. But then when Ace is leaving, and he's just like, oh, you know, thank you for everything. First, she's like, you stupid brat, whatever. She's like, thank you for everything. And she's like, oh, why'd you say that? And then she starts crying. With Luffy, when he was leaving, too, she's like, oh, whatever, you brat, go ahead. And then he says something to her, and then she starts crying again. So that was like, you know, they warmed this old bandit's heart.
Hell yeah. And can I just say, Luffy crying does have more of an impact than Deku crying. Just saying.
It does.
Well, I mean, Deku kind of like spilled the beans in the whole crying situation, like almost immediately, didn't he?
He's never cried before.
Deku.
Don definitely has a point in terms of Garp. Like, Garp has put himself in a very...
Garp's a great character, too.
He is, but he is a situation because he obviously loves these kids, but then they want him to be pirates and be free, and he's part of the Navy.
Well, like, you could like think about Garp though, is that like I think everyone knows a Garp, someone who's like really regimented, someone who's really disciplined, and all the rest of it, and is no nonsense, that kind of thing. And he kind of reminded me a lot of like my my grandfather when he was alive and stuff. And like, I totally could resonate with the idea of him. Like I knew that during the Marineford arc that like when he was forced to deal with the situations of like, you know, I need to stop this from happening, but I also need to like let it happen because there's like a conflict in his mind going on between duty and family, and he like never had to choose between the two before, and if he ever did, it usually ended up being in the favor of his duty. But like obviously now he's very fond of these two little kids that he grew up with or that he helped raise.
Yeah. That's why that scene in Marineford when he actually confronts Luffy as Luffy's heading up to that's a powerful scene.
Oh, it's so good. It's one of my favorites from the actual arc, to be honest.
I mean, there's so many great scenes in that arc. Like, I mean, most anime, it's like top 10 moments of that anime. Here you could do like top 100 moments of Marineford.
Oh yeah, Marineford is just ridiculously dense with material that you can just talk about. Like,
and it's not even that long. How many chapters?
It's 30 chapters. 30 chapters. You got freaking Shanks ends the war. Whitebeard standing there without a scar on his back. Blackbeard flexing on the entire universe. It's like, it's insane.
Yeah, there was like
crazy.
There was 4 climaxes.
And in terms of the whole why are Marines some good? What do they want? The people that are good and are Marines, like, why do they do this? I mentioned, Mark, I don't know if you're probably familiar with Thomas Hobbes, right?
Thomas Hobbes?
Yeah.
Anime. You're never supposed to do that. It's like, oh, you've heard of all of the, you've read all of the chronicles of this and that in these famous books. Everyone knows them, right? And then you feel stupid if you don't. So you say, don't do that.
I'm not well read on any manga specifically, to be honest. I have a few that I've read through, but I haven't read a lot, to be honest.
Thomas Hobbes isn't manga. I don't know. Maybe it's not. He's not a very Japanese name.
An English political theorist, and his whole thing was the social contract, and he talked about how his book was The Leviathan, but he was talking about how anything is better than anarchy and chaos. So even like absolute authority could be justified if it stops humanity from descending back to the state of nature, which he saw as, cold, deadly, brutish, and short, because everyone was trying to kill each other and one up each other. So he hated anarchy, and he was like, anything can be justified. Even the most harshest authority is better than the alternative, which is chaos. So I feel like someone like Akainu, and I mentioned this in the previous episode, might be, building on this type of ideology, and maybe some of these Marines who actually support the world government, knowing how corrupt they are thinking, well, yeah, this is bad, but it'll be worse if we have chaos. It will be worse if authority breaks down. And so you will support.
And that's kind of what I was saying, like what you're just saying right now. That's kind of what I was trying to say in the beginning of the episode when Mark was like, the only pure evil is kind of the world government. And I said, well, no.
Yeah, no, you're right, Nux. I agree with that. That actually made me think of it when you said that earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why One Piece is so good. It's like my favorite parts of One Piece are the things that some people just don't seem to care about, which is kind of sad. It's like there's so much brilliant philosophy in One Piece. It's insane.
And there's loads of moral ambiguity as well. Like there are really messy moments where like who was really in the right, who was really in the wrong in that situation, and it's not just cut and dry. It's like it expects you to think about it.
Yeah.
All right, everyone's screaming in chat Ace Tattoo for the last 5 minutes.
Thanks, Briggs. Yeah, Ace got a tattoo, guys. Wake up.
The one on his back?
No, the one on his arm.
Yeah, the one on his arm.
He's got the letter S, bro.
Yeah.
The one on his back is the Whitebeard tattoo.
Yeah.
And it got fisted.
Yeah, I don't know what that means. I can't speculate. ACES?
ASC. No, he spelled it wrong, so he crossed off the S.
Yeah, what happened? It's ASCE with the S crossed off because he spelled it wrong.
He spelled it wrong. I don't know. I think the thing is like that's one of those situations as well where I just don't feel like I have nearly.
Yo, wait! You actually didn't know that you actually all thought it was because it was a spelling mistake?
No.
That was the joke. That was the joke in the beginning in the Alabasta
raving
arc.
Lunatic.
In the Alabasta arc, when I saw it, that's what I thought. It's like the first time we see him, it's like, okay, so he may be strong, but he can't spell. He crossed off the S because Sabo died in Garbage Town.
No.
So he crossed off the S, bro. The S was for Sabo.
Oh, okay. I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
This is the most awkward part of the episode ever. Okay, let's.
I don't understand how it's for Sabo.
I'm not 100% sure either, other than the fact that
the guy sucks at spelling. I don't know what you're all talking about. Anyway, thanks for coming. It was an amazing episode. We love you, Mark. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, guys.
Your accent is cool.
One more thing, guys, that I want to say is Dr. Vegapunk is very interesting to me. This dude, we don't know anything about him other than he has this incredible technology. He's this genius. So I wonder whether he is tied to the Void Century. Did he somehow discover lost ancient technology related to the Void Century? That's what I'm thinking right now, but I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't know idea. Vegapunk. I just think Cyberpunk 2077 when I play that game.
Yeah, it does sound cyberpunk-ish, but
yeah, no, there's I think there's more detail. Like the same thing that you guys were saying about Marineford and stuff. That like I think there's enough material in Marineford that you can make 1,000 videos on it. There's like I'd say there's almost an equal measure.
And people have.
Yeah. And there's so much stuff in the post Marineford stuff as well that like it's just it's a fool's errand to think. I think I said this in like around Alabasta. I had the kind of opinion that it's a fool's errand to try to keep track of everything Oda puts in front of you because he puts too much in front of you for you to actually remember without considerable effort.
Unless you're teching.
Unless you're teching.
I haven't seen any of his videos because One Piece.
Don't watch his videos because he.
Yeah, spoilers, but I'm sure you know of Tekking's legend. The legend of Tekking.
I've heard the name before.
Anyway, yes, chat. Vegapunk has a 189 IQ. Yes. Everyone.
That's a dumb high IQ.
It is. It absolutely is. Mark, thank you so much for joining us. It was a pleasure meeting you and chatting with you about this insanely epic series and this arc and saga.
Likewise, it was super fun. Thank you so much for having me.
I have to say that, Nux and Briggs, my good friends.
Nux and Briggs!
Nux and Briggs!
They often overhype things for me to the point of insanity. And one of the reasons why I decided to start reading One Piece and do this podcast was because every time we would talk about anything else, they would keep talking about One Piece and how great One Piece is and comparing everything to One Piece. And I was like, I'm just gonna read fucking One Piece already so that they can get off my back. I know it's not as good as they're saying. They've probably, have all this nostalgia goggles and shit for One Piece, so let's get it over with. But I have to say, with this, it actually lives up to the hype. And that's saying a lot, man.
Let's get over it. Let's get it over with. A 1,000 episode long series. Let's just get it over with.
Yes. No, because everyone's like, One Piece this, One Piece that. And I'm like, oh, let's just fucking do One Piece. Let's do a podcast. I
figured it was going to be good. That's the thing, though. I figured it was going to be good because so many people watch it. It's the most popular. Usually when something is the most popular, it is that way for a reason.
Yeah, like Demon Slayer.
I just didn't think that it was going to be this good.
Exactly. So I thought, it was not going to be terrible. Otherwise, all these people would be insane. But I was still thinking maybe they were having nostalgia goggles and they started when they were really young, so they wanted to finish the story. But yeah, it really is that good.
Yeah, no, it's next level awesome, and it's something that I found myself extremely lucky as well, because this was something that I didn't think I was ever going to do because I was so preoccupied making Dragon Ball content. But now I decided to do some One Piece stuff, and people are enjoying it, which I'm really happy about. But I'm really, really, really thankful for the fact that I will be able to read the last chapter of One Piece the same time everyone else does, and I'm really excited for that.
Well, never know. We're gearing up to the ending right now. No, I'm kidding. We're not close.
Yeah, you're assuming there will be a last chapter, Mark.
I think some people will think.
Mindset.
I think I remember reading somewhere that some people estimate the ending is going to be like within the next 5 years, maybe, or something like that.
I know, but they've been saying that for the last
5 years. I don't know. I remember when Marineford happened. I think Oda said he's like 60% done or something. And
sure Oda said it was supposed to be a 5-year story. No.
Well, that's how it started.
Mm-hmm.
But even Marineford is halfway at this point.
I wish I did. The thing is, I haven't done any research on this, obviously. So, did Oda ever do a podcast or an interview where he explains how he came up with the story?
I don't think so. Not to my knowledge. I don't know.
So
I just enjoyed the story for what it is. I'm never interested necessarily in, you see this writer as a child, someone put a straw hat on his head. It's not.
Well, I'm really into music. Music. I'm really into story theory and how people decide to structure their stories. So I'd love to know what his plan was going for this. Because this story is a literal epic.
It really is.
What
it's a timeless classic.
What I know that he said that when he started the journey, he didn't expect it to be as long as it was, but he started it with a beginning and an end in mind. And then it's kind of just like an adventure along the way, which is literally the Straw Hats are just going on an adventure around the world.
Okay, so it's every island, a combination of making it up as you go, but also having everything tied together in a specific way. That's kind of cool.
Well, it's not purely make up as you go.
No, it can't.
You're still gonna see. It's wait a second, this was forced. You only read 580 chapters or whatever, so you can't be like, oh my god, this was foreshadowed for 800 chapters. You can't do that yet.
Yeah, and if you look at the question corners, Oda will tell you certain things that were inspired. So obviously, the age of piracy, the golden age of piracy, was a big inspiration, and different pirates have names that are based on real pirates.
Yeah, Marshall Teach is based off Marshall Thatch, Blackbeard, the real life Blackbeard.
And then you have Ivankov, he's based on a character from the Rocky Horror Picture Shows. So then you have the Admiral.
Django is based off Michael Jackson.
Admirals are based.
I never caught that.
Actual.
Anel is based off Eminem, I think.
Yeah, I know. I got both of those.
Yeah, so he says stuff like that, the inspirations, but in terms of the whole story and how he got the idea of the whole story, I don't think we've seen that.
He does say some funny stuff.
Usopp's training arc on that carnivorous plant is based off Jabba the Hutt.
Obviously, there's a lot of stuff that's planned hundreds and hundreds of chapters in advance, as we see. But there's also some stuff like the supernovas, which he thought of a week before they came up.
What, really?
Yeah, he said it in an SPS that he just
And bro, that's still one of the most mind-blowing things to me, because the supernovas are all fantastic.
They're fantastic, but they also play an integral part, I feel, so far in the story. So I'm just really interested to see how they tie into the ending.
Well, shame they never show up again.
Yeah. So we had Drake do something badass. He was challenging the.
Yeah, man, he played Fortnite with Ninja.
Yeah, and then we also had Kid show himself to be pretty ruthless.
Yeah.
The thing is about those guys, right? I got like lambasted in my comment section for not talking about them more when they were like revealed. I'm like, I don't have a fucking clue who any of these people are. I mentioned them for a few seconds because they look cool, and I know that they'll have significance later. But I don't know anything about these fucking guys. You know?
I still think it was it surprised me when Luffy is, you know, that he's the up and coming, he's gonna be the Pirate King or whatever. Like this whole story is about his adventure. He shows up and he has the second highest bounty among the supernovas.
Yeah, but the thing is though, I'm like among those people, he still is the most accomplished by far. Like,
you don't know that. You don't know what Kid did.
Well, no, sorry, yeah, you're definitely right there. But like, oh no, the guy with the higher bounty, it just said that he was more ruthless. That's why it's because he killed people.
Definitely more ruthless, but
think about the things that Luffy did to get his bounty.
It's specifically because he killed people. Luffy hasn't killed people.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's pissed off the world government as much as Luffy.
But he must have killed some important people, or at least when he does, he wreaks havoc on a lot of places. He's had to have done something significant in order for him to get that bounty. Because if I just went around shooting people in One Piece, they're not going to give me a 300 and whatever plus bounty.
Well, if you were that dangerous, they just roll in and take you out.
Yeah.
The thing is, though, at this point in the story, I obviously don't know what's to come. But one question that I have in my mind, just from like how One Piece is going to progress in terms of how it's feeling, is that the world government's been a pretty big part of the story so far, especially in the Grand Line. So we've explored places like friggin' Impel Down, we've explored Marineford, and we've explored Enies Lobby and stuff. And they've destroyed all those places. Those are sort of seen as like the big strongholds, like the headquarters of the Navy and all the rest of it. I don't want to think that the Navy is going to become an afterthought after this. I don't know if that will be
They never show up again.
Well, now we're going into the New World eventually, so that is more about Wild West, I guess.
Yeah, one thing about the world government until this point, you didn't have any names for the faces, you know? It's like in Marineford, we're actually introduced, you have these 3 admirals, and they are really scary. And they're all still around at full power, you know?
Yeah.
It's like...
Yeah, and don't forget Charlos, bro.
Charlos, man? God damn.
Bruh, Condi Oriano still has yet to make another appearance. I'm scared. You guys need
Mark doesn't know him because he was a filler.
Oh, dude, like my editor and a friend of mine specifically said that I should watch, and I did watch.
G8. Oh my god, that's so funny. We did the same thing.
Yeah, G8, yeah. So Condoriano, there's the joke, or who knows, maybe it'll be revealed that maybe it'll be revealed that he was a crew member all along.
Yeah. I don't want to talk about G8 too much because this is the Marineford thing, but like Jesus Christ, fucking. Like Usopp in G8 was I was bending over on the floor laughing. I was shrieking with laughter. It was so fucking fun. It was like it might have been the most I had laughed at anything in my entire fucking life. Watching fucking Usopp going like, it's a secret. It's a secret. It's a secret. It's so fucking
that
good.
was so good.
Yo, Usopp telling Condi Oriano, it's like, oh, I can't believe you're back. Yes, he is one of the Straw Hats. He's like, no, I'm not. Give it up. You're not fooling anybody.
Oh, it's so fucking good.
Mark, I agree with you. Mark, I agree with you about like the supernovas and stuff. Sometimes we who are just going into it blind, we don't know that much about these characters, and then you'll get people in the comments saying, well, you forgot this one crucial scene. It's here. It's like,
and you're like, yeah, well, fuck you. I don't have 1,000 chapters of hindsight.
Yo, you didn't even mention the fact that in Jaya, they mentioned that about Blackbeard, it's not he, it's they. What is that? Why didn't you mention that, bro?
Yeah, exactly. So a detail like that, and then you're like, okay, well, first of all, you can't talk about everything. You can have a 3-hour episode and not talk about everything. But then a lot of the stuff that people want to talk about is because they know it's going to happen later and something's going to be revealed later. But we don't know that, so, you know.
Yeah, that's the thing, though. But I think that kind of, like, is part of, like, the whole blind experience that, like, we get. Like, the thing is, like, I read through the entire chapter, and I keep things in the back of my head, like, but I might not mention them in the reviews that I make.
Correct, because you have to make decisions.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you have to make a decision on the cutting room floor, but, like, the thing is that, like, it doesn't mean that I don't remember it. I will remember it when it's called back upon later, and it will be all the better because I'll be surprised.
So, very important question, Mark. This will change everything because, as you see, you are a One Piece virgin, and so is Animac. And based on your answer to this question, you may replace Animac for future episodes.
Did you cry for the
Going Merry?
Oh yes, 100%.
Animac, get the hell out of here! We have a new captain.
Mark would never utter the words. It's just a ship, bro.
It's just a ship, bro. But thank you guys for joining us for another epic One Piece virgin. Totally Not Mark. Check out his blind impressions of One Piece. He makes videos on them on YouTube. They're epic. His channel links and stuff will be in the description, or just Google Totally Not Mark. And thank you as well to my boys, Nux and Briggs.
Nux and Briggs!
Mark, if you don't know, they say this all the time. Like, I could say it again and they'll do it again. Nux and Briggs.
Nux and Briggs!
Can I try?
It's like children. It's like children. Nux and Briggs.
Nux and Briggs.
Mark, why don't you do it? Why don't you do one?
Nux and Briggs.
Nux and Briggs!
Keep doing it, man.
Nux and Briggs.
That's good. I like that.
Well, you want to know the reason we started doing Nux and Briggs?
No, someone in chat just said Nux and Briggs.
Nux and Briggs. The reason we started doing Nux and Briggs, other than like the fact that Nux and Briggs are amazing, Nux and Briggs, is because when we would introduce guests, it'd be weird, like, welcome back to the podcast, Nux and Briggs, who are here every single week, and it's just like, oh, thank you for having me, good to be back. Like, let's get through it. Let's introduce the guest that's like new here. So we just started screaming Nux and Briggs.
No, but also it didn't work out because. Who talks? It's like, well, our guest this week, Totally Not Mark. And then you say, hello, laddies, top of the morning to you. Right, all right, all that. And then Animac says, and we also have Nux and Briggs. So then who speaks? Nux or Briggs? Answer, both of us.
There
Nux
we go.
And Briggs.
There we go.
It's brilliant. It is Oda level writing.
Oda came up with it, actually. He emailed me about it. And with that all said and done, have yourselves the most wonderful evening. Stay weird, space fanboys, and remember to totally not Mark next time. I don't know your outro, but it's probably that.
Thank you so much for watching, guys. Bye-bye.